الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. اللهم يسر لنا أمرنا واشرح لنا صدرنا واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا يا أرحم الراحمين. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, the brothers suggested that we talk about the Quran. But I want to talk about the Quran in a different perspective today. Because it seems like the Quran for us, the first thing that a brother does when he comes to the deen is to learn Quran and Tajweed. And that is perfect. It seems to us like the Quran, to many Muslims today, it's just a book of melody. He reads it, and then he finds his voice beautiful. Then he likes his own sound and his own voice. It seems like the Quran, it is not a book of guidance anymore. نقيم حروفه. We establish the letters of the Quran by reading it. ولكن لا نقيم معاني. We do not establish the meaning of the Quran in our life. When you see an ummah fighting amongst each other, when you see an ummah has revolutions every day, when you see an ummah killing each other and lost for guidance, and the book of Allah is between their hands. When you see the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam looking for answers, looking for objectives and goals, looking for a way to go, looking for means, looking for a path, and they have the Quran between their hands. The ironic thing, if you were to ask every Muslim practicing or non-practicing Muslim, is the Quran perfect? Is the Quran from Allah? Is the Quran the book of Allah? Is it the word of Allah? He says yes. Why are you looking in anywhere else other than the Quran? Why aren't you implementing the Quran? The Quran, it just sounds good. You cry when you hear Abdul Basit and Minshawi. And the brothers discovering reciters like they're discovering singers. Until we have the attributes of Khawarij without knowing, without us knowing. What is the attributes of Khawarij? One of their traits. They would read the Quran, it does not go past their throat. One of the characteristics of misguidance is that you read the Quran and it just passes your throat and you don't understand anything of it. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Then they reflect on the Quran, or there are locks on the hearts. How many of us really, when he has a problem, he looks for a solution inside the Quran? When he's looking for an example in his life, he looks for a story of a prophet, a story of a messenger, a story of a wise man, a story of a Siddiqah, a female of Siddiq. How many of us do that? How many of us, when we find that we have a trouble, we open the Quran and we read? How many of us, when we are cornered into a situation, we take heed from the lessons of Quran? Do you ever wonder how the Prophet ﷺ and his companions radiyallahu anhum, at the hardest in their life, in Mecca when they were persecuted, tortured, killed, bled, what was making them patient? A revelation of the Quran. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Surah Nuh and how he got blind, and Surah Ibrahim and the story of Ibrahim and how his people rejected him, the story of Lut, the story of Ismail, the stories of the prophets, the fitna that happened with Yusuf, Yunus in the belly of the whale. To learn what, Ya Rasulullah? To learn how to have patience, to learn how to have yaqeen, to learn how to have steadfastness, to remain straight and focusing on your goal. You know, Sheikh, yes, Abdul Basit, Surah Yusuf number 1. You know there's this clip on YouTube, yes? He reads it in different recitations. 1 minute Hafs, 1 minute Warsh, 1 minute Qalun, one... Yeah, and what did you understand from all this? Sheikh, it sounds good. Sah. Al-Quran, yes, the Prophet ﷺ said, every letter is 10 hasanat. But the Quran, the original purpose of it is to give you guidance. Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he described the companions, when the ayah is revealed to them, one of them would ask each other, أَيُّكُمْ زَادَتْهُ إِيمَانًا? Which one of you this ayah increased him in iman? What does it mean increased him in iman? Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, from their aqidah, from their belief, that al-imanu qawlun wa amal, sayings and actions. Meaning, when you heard this ayah, when Abu Bakr says to Umar, and Umar says to Uthman and Ali, and they talk to each other, radiallahu anhum, which one of you this ayah increased them in iman? Mean, which ayah of you has implemented already this ayah? Because increasing of the iman is what? With actions. How many ayat we read? How many ladhina amanu, when Allah ordered them to lower their gaze, he's driving and he's still looking, and he's still Abdul Basit. Yes, Shaykh, jilbabi and I'm looking for a arus. صح. طيب ما هو بالجاهلية, he used to listen to Tupac and look at Cheryl with the short skirt. Now in Islam, he looks at the jilbabiya playing Abdul Basit or Nasheed. Jahil. It's just the Quran. وَفِي آذَانِهِمْ وَقْرٌ, and in their ears there's deafness. They hear beautiful melody, voices, maqamat. They need different level of voices in the Quran. Maqam al-Nahawandu, maqam najdu, maqam this. He's listened to the maqamat, he's happy. He's enjoying. But has it really affected his heart? In a sense, did you really take a lesson from the Quran? Are you going to practice the Quran? You know the best thing we do in Ramadan? We look for an imam that leads Taraweeh. But I'm looking for the best imam, so I can enjoy the voice. So what it is? The implementation is not there. A ummah that has Kitabullah and still misguided and does not know where to go, this is an ummah in a great state of loss. A ummah that has Kitabullah, that knows it's never been altered. Ahlul Batil, the people of falsehood, the people of kufr, the people of shirk, they're proud of their batil. They implement their batil. They implement their falsehood. And Ahlul Quran neglected the Quran. وَاتَّخَذُوهُ مَهْجُورًا, they neglected it. And as Ibn Mas'ud said, hijranuhu, to abandon the Quran is not to abandon reading it, it's to abandon the implementation of it. Abandon the orders and the prohibition in it. Yani imagine Abdullah standing in front of Allah on the day of judgment. Ya Abdullah, Allah would ask him, did I send you a warner? Yes, Ya Rabb. Did he bring you nur, wa huda, wa shifa, wa dhikr? Yes. I received guidance, and I received cure, and I received guidance, and I received the light, and I received all this, the remembrance. Why you didn't implement it? I will not benefit you on that day. Will not benefit you to hesitate. How can a ummah knows Kitabullah with it and yet not implement it? Compare. The Yahud today, compare. Who are full of pride with their Torah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks in the Quran about himself what? لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. Nothing unto him, and he is the hearer of all, the seer of all. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. Allah, there is no deity worthy of worship except him, the ever-living, the one who self-sufficient and suffices his creation. لم يكن له كفوا أحد. There is no equal to Allah. هل تعلم له سميا. Is there someone co-equal to Allah? In their books, Allah kept a hiding, kept a bashing from Yaqub. Genesis. Ask a reader to read the Old Testament will tell you. Yet they're full of pride of their book. A missionary would travel he lives the best life in United States. Of course, the priests earn big money. Big money. They earn big money. To buy a house in Africa and live in the jungle risking his life to give da'wah to his batil. And the Muslim has the Quran and says, where can I find guidance? I don't want to say something rude in the masjid. In the Quran, تلك الرسل فضلنا بعضهم على بعض. Those are the messengers we have, gave some over some in status. We raised some over some in status. And Allah praised everywhere the Rasul and the prophets and messengers in the Quran. You read in the Old Testament. Go listen. One prophet got drunk and slept with his daughter. The other prophet used magic. And the other prophet seduced I don't know what. And Dawood killed I don't know who and married I don't know who. And yet we look for guidance. We're so impressed by the misguidance. And yet you have Kitabullah. You have the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to narrate to you this hadith narrated by the Tirmidhi. Al-Harith ibn al-A'war, he said, I passed by the masjid. فَإِذَا النَّاسُ يَخُوضُونَ فِي الْأَحَادِيثِ. People are talking, everyone is giving his own opinion. My opinion, Sheikh. Everyone is talking and giving opinions and everything. And they're talking in the ahadith and different things. So he went to whom? He went straight to Ali radiallahu anhu. That is at the time of Ali. Harith ibn al-A'war was a close student for Ali radiallahu anhu. He said, I went to Ali. فقلت يا أمير المؤمنين ألا ترى الناس قد خاضوا في الأحاديث. Can't you see the people that start talking everything? He said, قال أو قد فعلوها. Did they really start like this? Talk, everyone is يخوضون, saying what they have no knowledge about. قال نعم. He said, yes. قال إني سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول. This is when? At the time of whom? Ali radiallahu anhu. At the time of whom? Ali radiallahu anhu. We haven't even passed the 30 Hijri yet. صح? He said, ألا إنها, he said, I heard the Messenger ﷺ say, ألا إنها ستكون فتنة. Indeed, there will be fitna. This is the time of Ali. We have now plural fitans, with a capital F and a capital S at the end. Multiple fitan. What the companion said, قلت Ali radiallahu anhu, the smart Amir al-Mu'mineen radiallahu anhu wa ardah, the person who wants success, he does not ignore when the Prophet ﷺ tells him there's a fitna. He said, وَمَا الْمَخْرَجُ مِنْهَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. Tell us what is the way out. We need a way out. He says, there's a fitna. If I'm alive, I need a way out. The Prophet ﷺ said, Kitabullah, the book of Allah. We're still looking. The Ummah still looking. In Egypt they're looking. In Syria they're looking. In Mali they're looking. Everywhere they're looking. The Muslims in Sydney, all over the place, looking for a way out from fitna. Every Muslim organization has a fitna. But they don't understand where is the way out. We don't know what is the way out. And we have the book of Allah amongst us and we don't know the way out. La ilaha illallah. Wallahi, sometimes you think, where are we living? Are we living on Venus or living on Mars or where do we live? Simple ayat in the Quran gives you solution for everything. But there has to be iman that the solution in the Kitabullah. But if there is hawa, you're not going to look for a solution. He said, Kitabullah, fihi naba'u man qablu. There is the news of the people before you. Wa khabaru ma ba'dakum. There is the news of the nations that come after. Wa hukmu ma baynakum. And the ruling of what is between you. فلا وربك لا يؤمنون حتى يحكموك فيما شجر بينهم ثم لا يجدوا في أنفسهم حرجا مما قضيت ويسلموا تسليما ما كان لمؤمن ولا مؤمنة إذا قضى الله ورسوله أمرا أن يكون لهم الخيارة من أمرهم. Nay, they do not believe until they take you, O Muhammad, as a ruler in their affairs, and they find within themselves no dislike for what you have ruled, and they will surrender with full surrendering. وَيُسَلِّمُ تَسْلِيمًا. Say, Ya Allah, that's your hukum. I'm happy and satisfied. I'm done. In another ayah in Surah Al-Ahzab, it is not for a believing man or a believing woman. If Allah and His Messenger ruled something, to have the option in their affairs. Type you say, what's this, Sheikh? This is dictatorship. Wallahi, because you're brainwashed democratic, aren't you? Of course, the Quran, the last word is for Allah. You said, Tab, how? Because you signed a contract with Allah. I signed a contract. I never signed a contract. Where is the contract? Bring it to me. Yes. You said, La ilaha illallah. That's a contract between you and Allah. It's a contract. Of course it's a contract. You want the Jannah? Yes, you have to obey Allah. Sure. If you don't want the Jannah, then don't disobey. Then obey. Go. Do what you like. Go do what you like, but you're not getting Jannah. Jannah is for the ones who obey, who fulfill the condition and the pillars of the contracts with the agreement with Allah. That's why Allah said to you, you want the Jannah, you listen to me. You want the Jannah, you listen to my messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And you don't say anything. Whatever we tell you, you listen. But how can you not listen? How can you not listen to the Hakim, the all-wise? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Alim, the all-knowledgeable. How can you not listen to Allah, Al-Hakim, Al-Alim? You go to a marriage consultant. You pay $200 an hour for him to tell you what to do. So, now they are listen to him. But Allah, who's more knowledgeable than the marriage consultant, and who's more wiser than the marriage consultant, why don't you listen to him? Why don't you take his word seriously? That's why when Allah says you have no option, your father, when he tells you, listen to me, Dad, I want the best for you. When you believe that Allah wants the best for me, then you listen. But تحبون العاجلة. You love the hasty one, which is now. You don't love the future. You see? And that's why when your dad talks to you, he doesn't talk to you about today. He talks to you for your future. Ya ibn Dros, study. I'd like to see you a doctor. I'd like to see you living a comfortable life. Now the walad, because his brains is still between his legs, you know what he wants? He wants a quick job so he can go buy a car, so he can what? Chase girls and get married. I want you to spend a few years, make it easier for yourself, become an engineer, become doctor, become something so you can work less and live a comfortable life. So when Allah orders you, who's more knowledgeable than your father, who's more wiser than your father, who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the creator, then don't argue, listen to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, وَحُكْمُ مَا بَيْنَكُمْ وَهُوَ الْفَصْلُ لَيْسَ بِالْهَزْلِ. It is the decisive book and there is no mockery or joke in it. Meaning it is serious. The words of the Quran, it's the criterion that you slice with, that you divide with. He said, مَنْ تَرَكَهُ مِنْ جَبَّارٍ قَسَمَهُ اللَّهِ. Any tyrant who leaves the Quran, Allah will break him. Allah, what does He do? Breaks him. Look at the Muslim leaders. Jababira, tarakul Quran, qasamahumullah. Tyrants abandoned the Quran, Allah broke their back. One is sleeping on his back inside the jail, and the other one got from a rat hole, and the other one, inshallah, the mujahideen going to, I don't want to say a rude word, drag him out of his house and finishes with him, inshallah. صح. شوف من جبار فرعون, look what happened to him. Any jabbar who turns his back on the Quran and doesn't seek guidance from Quran, Allah going to break him. He said عليه الصلاة والسلام وَمَنِ ابْتَغَى الْهُدَى فِي غَيْرِهِ أَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ. Whoever seeks guidance in something other than Quran, Allah will misguide him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Baqarah, always this ayah amazed me, shabab. Wallahi, every time I read it, I say, Subhanallah. يَضُلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرًا وَيَهْدِي بِهِ كَثِيرًا. Allah misguides with the Quran a lot of people, and He guides with the Quran a lot of people. Always wondered, how can the Quran misguide people? But as some people, when they hear the haqq, it only increases them in misguidance. It's like your son, when you say to him, do this, no, he does the opposite because you said do it. صح? And same thing. Some people, when the ayat are recited on them, they want to do the opposite. Your Quran says this, so we're going to do the opposite. Your Quran said hijab, we're going to parade naked. True or not? Isn't it what they're doing in Europe? And they wanted to do here? Your Quran said burqa and hijab. Wallah, the Quran doesn't say burqa, it says hijab. But anyway, doesn't mean that the burqa haram, don't misunderstand. It's a sunnah and wajib, according to some scholars. But I'm not talking about. But anyway, he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they say the Quran said hijab, we're going to parade naked. You see? يُضِلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرًا. Someone who hears the Quran and doesn't believe in it, he increases in misguidance. What did they call the Quran? Poetry, sihr, magic. They call it all different names. Sah? Yet, they get more and more misguided. And also He guides so many with the Quran. That's why the Prophet ﷺ in this hadith, he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, if you seek huda in other than the Quran, it is enough for you when you have the Quran and you try to seek misguidance, Allah will misguide you. To seek guidance away from the Quran, Allah going to misguide you. But you have to tafza' ila al-Quran, run. I have a problem, ring the Shaykh. What does the Quran say about this problem, ya Shaykh? What Allah said about this situation, ya Shaykh? Run to the Quran. Run to the guidance of the Quran, then Allah will guide you. But wallahi, last thing on your mind what the Quran say, I want to hear what this guy say and what that guy say and what this guy say. then Allah will increase you in misguidance until you find yourself swimming in ضلالة. صح. يقول عليه الصلاة والسلام وهو حبل الله المتين. It is the tight rope of Allah. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And all of you hold on to the rope of Allah and do not separate. Hablullah, the Quran. Why Allah called that habl rope? You can imagine yourself climbing or falling and you're grabbing into a rope. Well, how would you grab? With your hands and عضوا عليه بالنواجذ. You bite on it with your molar teeth so you don't let go. When you believe that the Quran, I have to grab it with my two hands and I know it's a strong rope. It's not going to loosen or break. No matter how hard I hold on to it, no matter how much I bite onto it, will keep me firm and I will never fall. That's why it's Hablullah al-Mateen. And that's why anyone who does not hold on to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to fall into misguidance. And he said here, وَهُوَ الذِّكْرُ الْحَكِيمُ. The Quran is the great wise remembrance. As I told you earlier, if you want wisdom in your life, somebody asked, says, yeah, Shaykh, wallahi, I'm feeling my chest tight. And I don't know, I feel like the whole world is collapsing around me. What do I do? Of course, if he's a person of material, he thinks the Shaykh can pull the magic stick and say, Habra kadabra and sir lahme habra. صح. لا يا حبيبي. The Shaykh doesn't have a magic stick. The Shaykh is da'if like you, weak, seeking guidance from Allah like you. Tell him, brother, read the last page of Surah Al-Talaq. Because it talks about if people are in trouble, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا, and so on. The ayat talks to you, you find it soothing, and you find Allah gives you hope in this ayat. صح. Read the ayat of Makki Quran. Read Juz' Tabarak, read Al-Haqqa, read Al-Waqi'ah, read Al-Najm, read Al-Qamar, read the Surah, read the Safat. You find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking to you about the dunya and how it is not worthy of anything and everything in the hereafter. And as-sabiqun al-awwalun wa ashab al-yamin. And you find yourself say, subhanallah. Ibn Abbas used to say, when I read the Hawamim, everything starts from Hamim or the surah. He said, I used to feel like I am in gardens. And I take from every garden a flower. Yet how can you, when you're depressed, not open Kitabullah? Even if you don't understand Arabic, read the translation. Today you have the Quran in your book, in the iPhone, in the iPad, on your laptop, everything. You have all different forms of masahif. And even on the iPad, you find the brother got like 7 apps of Quran. And he still yet doesn't read anything. You know why? Because as the Prophet ﷺ said, فُشُوَ الْقَلَمِ, the pen will increase towards the day of judgment. A lot of books will be there. No one reads. Books. App. Everything on app. And no one reads. No one bothers. And even he doesn't read, he's just reading Surah Al-Kahf on a Friday, just before the Imam comes on the Mumbar, and then when he finishes, he closes it. See you next week on Friday. Bas. Is that the relationship you have with the Quran? The companions used to consider that if 40 days passes you and you haven't finished all the Quran, it's a sign of hypocrisy. And it is a sign of abandoning the Quran. A sign of abandoning the Quran. And you will fall under the people who abandon the Quran. What? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is telling you the wisdom in it. If you have a fitna, say, Shaykh, I tell you what, I can't stand this anymore. Lash ya Ahmed, Wallah, ya Sheikh, I don't know, man, the fitna of women here living in Sydney, man, I can't control myself. And I can't afford to get married. طب go read Surah Yusuf. Ya Sheikh, طيب, I read it, but nothing happening. يعني still I have a desire. طب شو بدي أعمل لك يعني? What can I do for you? If you read Surah Yusuf and you read about Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, and he preferred to be jailed, and he preferred to be tortured, and he preferred to be outcasted from a castle, and you live in Liverpool in a house worth 250,000 half broken, and Yusuf moved from a castle to a jail not to fall into zina. شو بدي أعمل لك يعني? What can I do for you? صح? If you can't learn from Yusuf, what can I do for you? There is nothing I can do. There is no one anything can do. That is a dhikr al-hakim. You know how to deal with the shahwa with wisdom. Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam could have had any girl he wanted. He could have had the wife of the king. And normally the kings don't marry just any girl. They have to be the most beautiful looking woman. She's a wife of a king. صح? غلقت الأبواب. She closed the doors. She dressed in the best dressing, in the best lingerie, makeup, everything. And قالت هيت لك, come here يا حبيبي. قال معاذ الله. أعوذ بالله. والله one of you say, Alhamdulillah, أشتر الرزق. Now I'll marry her and she's the wife of a king. I'll send someone to shoot the king and I'll become the king. صح? That's how we do. Because we're possessed by shaitan. And there's no ruqya will get that shaitan out, trust me. صح. Learn it from Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam. Learn it from Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam. A sister, her wife, her husband, he does not allow her to wear hijab, or he's being tough on her. Sheikh, what do I do? He's going to divorce me, but I want to wear the hijab, but I'm not wearing it because I'm scared from my husband. Read Surah Al-Tahrim, read the end. امرأة فرعون ضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا امرأة فرعون إذ قالت رب ابن لي عندك بيتا في الجنة ونجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين. Oh Allah, Allah said, and an example for the believers, the wife of Pharaoh. She said what? Oh my Lord, her husband is torturing her, opening her stomach under severe torture because she became muwahida Asiya. She said, oh my Lord, build me a house in the Jannah and save me from Pharaoh and his kufr and shirk, and save me from the people of oppression. If you can't learn from this, where are you going to learn? Al-Dhikr al-Hakim. This is where you learn from. Al-Dhikr al-Hakim. And for the sister who her husband is very righteous and she's not, tell your brother, go read to her the story of the wife of Lot and the wife of Noah. كانتا وضرب الله مثلا للذين كفروا, and an example for the disbelievers. امرأة نوح وامرأة لوط, the wife of Noah and the wife of Lot. كانتا تحت عبدين من عبادنا صالحين فخانتاهما فلم يغنيا من الله شيئا فلم يغنيا عنهما من الله شيئا وقيل ادخلا النار مع الداخل. We gave an example to the disbelievers. Allah gave an example to the disbelievers. The wife of Noah and the wife of Lot. They were under two righteous men, but there will no benefit or avail for them. They didn't help them. And it said to them on the day of judgment, enter Jahannam with the ones who enter Jahannam. You see? Al-Dhikr al-Hakim. Tell me any problem, you find Allah mentioned something. I want to bring up my son on the Islamic way. Ya Sheikh, what do I do? Go read Surah Luqman and teach your son the wasiyah of Luqman. Bas. Few ayat, few verses. Go teach your son what Luqman said. What do you want? Al-Dhikr al-Hakim is there. Allah told you there, go look. Everything is in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lam yufarrit. He did not neglect in this Quran from anything. Everything is in the Quran. You see? This is the dhikr al-hakim. He said, وَهُوَ الصِّرَاطُ الْمُسْتَقِيمُ. And the Quran is the straight path. Meaning, if you adhere to it, what happens? You remain on the straight path and you never go astray. How can you go astray if you have the Quran with you? He said here, وَهُوَ الَّذِي لَا تَزِيغُ بِهِ الْأَهْوَاءُ وَلَا تَلْتَبِسُ بِهِ الْأَلْسِنَةُ. He said, هُوَ الَّذِي لَا تَزِيغُ بِهِ الْأَهْوَاءُ. Meaning, with the Quran, with its implementation, the ahwa will never take control of you, nor the whims can play with the Quran. Quran, صح, will defeat all your whims if you adhere to it. And no one with his whims can be able to overcome the Quran. وَلَا تَلْتَبِسُ بِهِ الْأَلْسُنَةِ. وَلَا تَلْتَبِسُ بِهِ الْأَلْسِنَةِ. And the tongues cannot confuse the Quran. Meaning, the lisan, the tongue, will always keep reciting the Quran. And people cannot change it, nor play with it. And the Quran would remain the Quran as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it. Until today, you'll be amazed. Al-Imam is standing in the salat and he makes a mistake. And all Imams make mistakes. No one is perfect. That's why if you... because some brothers, as soon as the Imam takes a breath, they go, boop. He's a human. Give him a bit of time to recollect his nafas and sah. And that's why some brothers hate Imam. Why? Because the people around you, they're just as if they are snipers. As soon as he gave you. There's etiquettes for al-fatah ala al-imam. The etiquette is first to say subhanallah. If he doesn't correct himself, then you correct him. But first say subhanallah. And sometimes the Quran, ya akhi, the Quran is a strong word, the word of Allah. Sometimes the tongue does not come out with the word properly. He has to just recollect himself and his thoughts and bring it out properly. Just give him a chance. Say subhanallah. If he doesn't fix it, then you read the ayah. I was praying in a masjid once and the Imam made a mistake. 3 people fatahu alayhi, sent him back. Each one gave him a different ayah. I got confused. Why? Because everyone wants to, this can enter the heart to show that you know. Be careful. That's why the basic principle is, as Prophet ﷺ told us, بدك تفتح على الإمام, you want to correct his mistake, first you say, Subhanallah. He doesn't correct himself, then you come out with the ayah and correct him. And normally, if you hear one person start to correct, everyone should remain silent. Why? Because you don't need to show your muscle that mashallah you're a hafiz and you know. No, khalas. He's correcting him, that's it. Let them do the job. But don't turn the salat, we're supposed to be khushu', to an argument. Even in the salat they're arguing. Everyone's saying, no, khalas. 6, 7, brother, why? It meant to be ideally, the one who stands behind the imam is the most knowledgeable in the Quran. So if he makes a mistake, he is the one responsible. But of course here, because it's very hard, yani, everyone stand everywhere and doesn't matter, but al-muhim, yani, just give it to the person. Once someone took upon the burden to correct the imam, let him correct the imam. Unless he correct him wrong, then you have a big problem on your hand. He said, وَلَا يَشْبَعُ مِنْهُ الْعُلَمَاء. And the scholars can never have enough from the Quran. Why they cannot? Because where are you going to look in the Quran? Linguistic? You can never have enough from the linguistics and the grammar and nahuf of the Quran. The miracles of eloquency in the Quran, the fiqh, the aqidah, the stories, al-wa'ad, scientific miracles. How can the ulama have enough from it? You can never have enough from the Quran. The Quran will always, like a flooding river, will always keep giving knowledge. And you will always learn something new. And you will always discover, I'm talking ulama. Ulama. When they look at the ayah and they can derive 100 points. Grammar and nahu, fiqh, hadith, balagha, all these different sciences in the Quran. He said, وَلَا يَخْلَقُ عَنْ كَثْرَةِ الرَّدِّ. And it comes back and you read it and it gives you knowledge and you read and it rebukes and you read and the Quran does not become old and neglected. Yani, you know, if you wear your clothing all the time, it deteriorates and becomes old and turns color. The Quran, the more you read it, the more you learn and the more you get interested and the more it opens doors on you. Subhanallah, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, when he was in jail, and then when they took from him the pen and paper and everything, he couldn't write fatawi, he couldn't do anything. He said, then I took my time with the Quran. And I learned knowledge that I never had just repeatedly reading the Quran every day. So what he was doing, he's reading the Quran every day. There's nothing. Of course, he's reading the Quran from where? From memory. From his chest. He said, I learned new things just reading the Quran regularly. Wallah ya ikhwa, if you read the Quran regularly, you'll find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and try to reflect on what you're reading, will open on your heart information and ilm that you never had before. You always learn something new. And the more you learn about the Quran, meaning if you're to learn the Arabic language and ulum al-Quran and sciences of the Quran and fiqh and that, keeps opening doors. And you keep discovering. And sometimes an ayah say, what does it mean? You open the book of tafsir and a book of tafsir will lead you to the book of hadith and you find yourself learning so much. But you need to keep reading and looking and reflecting on the Quran. He said, وَلَا تَنْقَضِي عَجَائِبُهُ. And the ajaib, the wondrous, its wonders, its wonders are endless. You see today, the scientific miracle, you see, brother gives you the video, look, mashallah, the embryo, and look about the stars and about all of this, the scientific miracles in everyone. So the 2 C's. I asked a sister, she comes to the college, I said, why did you become a Muslim? Subhanallah, the answer was ajib. She said, I've been Muslim 6 years. But when I was 18 or 17, my friend, she was not even Sunni, she was Shia. She said to me, you know in the Quran it is mentioned there are 2 seas meet and the water doesn't mix. Surah Al-Rahman. مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان. She said, it stuck in my mind, never left. Then my mother passed away and I started questioning the dunya and what Allah wants from us and why we are on this dunya. And I thought, I want to read about Islam. And she became a Muslim. Don't underestimate the small seed you plant in the heart of someone. That could haunt him for another 5 years and then he becomes a Muslim. Allah al-Azim, I couldn't believe the story that she said ayah. That's why Ajaib al-Quran never finishes. Sayyid Qutb rahmatullah alayh, as his brother Muhammad hafidhahullah was narrating a story about his brother. He said, my brother was giving a lecture in America. In Arabic, of course. And there is this journalist lady came to him, she said, or an old lady. She said, I hear that you are giving a nice speech. I can hear the eloquency in your speech. But there was something different. You'd mention it and I feel shake within me. I feel there is something different from all of your speech. It sounded to my ear different. Now you remember this person, she doesn't understand Arabic. She's hearing something inside his speech that is different from everything he's saying. He said to her, Naam, that's the Quran. That's the Quran. So even the melody of the Quran, the wording of the Quran, it sounds different. Subhanallah al-Azim. Here he said, هو الذي لم ينتهي الجن إذ سمعوه. Even the jinn, when they heard it, until they said, they didn't stop, until they said, إنا سمعنا قرآنا عجبا يهدي إلى الرشد فآمنا به. يعني the jinn did not stop until they said, indeed we heard a Quran that is wonderful. عجب, amazing. يهدي إلى الرشد, it guides to the guidance. فآمنا به, we believed in it. The jinn believed in the Quran, and the brother still yet doesn't think that there is guidance in the Quran. Why we would want to be resurrected on the day of judgment and the Quran is behind our back? Oh yeah, Shaykh, who told you behind my back? I wear it here, I've got one in the car, and one in the glove box, and one in the office in the maktab at work, and one in my bag, and then an app in my laptop, and my iPhone. Who said I put it behind my bag? Ya Allah, you did. Because that proves you're not been reading the Quran. Sah? You have to read and implement, ya akhi. It's not about the number. Enter every Muslim house. You find he has 1 or 2 copies, or they got it in a nice bag and hanged. The Quran is called Quran to be read. من كثرة القراءة, reading. قرأ Quran, فهو مقروء. To read. Not to hang it, to pack it and hang it. And when there is someone dead, you listen Yasin, wal Quran al-Hakim, that's it. Until somebody told me, Sheikh, when I hear Abdul Basit and the Quran, when I was young, I used to get scared. I think somebody died. Why? Because that's the only time he hears Quran. And when somebody dies, they play Abdul Basit on Yasin. But never hears the Quran, and he hasn't heard the Quran in his life played in his house. When his father died, or his mother died, or grandmother died, boop, جيب المسجل from nowhere, put CD, Abdul Basit, play Yasin wal Quran al-Hakim. Until the child grows up, what? He hears the Quran and he writes it to bad news. Psychologically, he is what? Relating the Quran to a loss of a dear member in his family. So that causes him what? Depression. Instead, always his ear listening to the Quran. No, it's only in occasions. You see? He's used to listening to music all day around the house and television all day, and his mother screaming, and then all of a sudden everything quiet and Yasin wal Quran al-Hakim. Mushkila. If this is the only time we listen to Quran, mushkila. You see, the Quran has to be part of your life, apart from of your family life. There'll be no harm. You want to be you like to give a talk, there's no harm to sit your wife and the children, even if they laugh at you. Tell them, after I finish, I'm giving everyone $2. Sit down. And your wife take 5. Sit down. Give you the pink lady, the $5. Sit down here. Sah. And read an ayah. And don't make your own tafsir. Huh? Abu Bakr wouldn't do his own tafsir. Please don't make your own tafsir. Read the ayah and read. You can always get a book of tafsir. $10. 3 ayat and read the tafsir. Say, what did we learn today? صح. 20 minutes. بس صلي المغرب with your family and teach him that. Is it hard? Oh, it's not hard, but the shaitan will make it hard. صح. He said here, من قال به صدق. Whomever speaks with the Quran has spoken the truth. ومن عمل أجر, and whomever act upon it, he'll get the reward. وَمَنْ حَكَمَ بِهِ عَدَلٍ, and whomever rules with the Quran, he has ruled with justice. وَمَنْ دَعَى إِلَيْهِ هُدِيَ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ, and whomever calls to the Quran is calling to a straight path, and he is on a straight path. So ya ikhwah, at the end of this hadith, the solution of Ummah Muhammad is what, ya ikhwah? Is to go back to the book of Allah. To take this book seriously in our life. Ikhwani, I said this in a lesson, and I'd like to repeat it here too. Every day, Every nation competes with the best they have. Some say we invented the laptops and computers. Some say we invented the nuclear weapon. Some say we invented that and we invented that. Everyone is full of pride of his achievement. We concentrate as a comeback the scientific miracles of the Quran. We say, look, mashallah, the Quran talked about the embryo and talked about this and talked about the star and talks about the moon and talks about the sun. But if we realize that Allah gave us a miracle which in it the salvation of mankind, which is to rule by the Kitabullah, to rule by the Quran. The miracle of today is what the Quran has to offer to humanity. The biggest miracle I say today for the Muslims without them noticing, I said it in the lesson, I just want to repeat it. When I see people protesting in Wall Street, an American woman, no hijab, nothing, she's not Muslim. She carries a sign and says, we want Islamic finance system. Sah. Isn't that a miracle? Isn't it a miracle that the kuffar realize what you have to offer to the people inside your Quran? At least the financial system. And the people haven't studied and showed the miracles of the inheritance system in the Quran. And the marital system of the Quran and how it gave a framework to the marriage. They haven't seen the al-hudud and qada in Islam about the rule against stealing and murder and all of that. They haven't seen the ruling of akhlaq in the Quran, the personal rights of the person in the Quran. How the Quran forbids strongly to call your brother in Islam in his nasab or to talk about his mom or his sister. The relationship between humans in the Quran. All of that we haven't touched up on it yet to show the people what morals and values we have. Until those who have no values come and tell us, we have better values than your deen. You know why? Because we haven't, neither in practice, nor at least in talking, showed them what are the values of Islam inside the Quran. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك وجزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.